They boarded the ship, went down the rungs of a rope ladder into the hold, where bunks tightly lined the bulkheads, side by side. It was a small hold, 20 by 40 feet space. I'm Judy Wolfman, and since my retirement from teaching, I have gotten very, very active in writing. I do book writing, playwriting, articles, short stories, you name it. My writing has been very interesting. I started out with children's books doing a Life on a Farm series. From there, I went into writing plays. I have about 9 children's plays that have been published, and they are being shown all over the world, literally. And I've done a lot of articles and stories, short stories for magazines, both children and adult work as well. I also scripted many different folk tales and Native American legends and put those into readers' theater scripts so that I have a collection of 40 of them, which are in a book called How and Why Stories for Readers' Theater. Not too long ago, I interviewed a woman who was a Holocaust survivor. She was living in York at the time. This was back in the 90s. And I interviewed her and heard her horrible, horrible stories. She was in the Kovno ghetto as a teenager, and that was in Lithuania. Her stories were absolutely horrendous. When I heard them, I interviewed her, taped her stories, did more research on the Holocaust as well as the Kovno ghetto, and created a book called Not My Time. Divided into 2 floors made of loosely secured plywood planks. There were no windows, and the hold stunk from the passengers who had already been on board for 6 weeks. After that, I started on the one that was just recently released. In this book, The Long Escape, which tells the story of the Chinese who wanted to flee from China so that they could come to America where they'd be free. And they got on board the Golden Venture, which was a cargo ship. And I would just like to read a little bit to let you get the feel of how they were. "Where are we to sleep?" one of the young women asked. Just then, one of the crew members told everyone to find a 2x6 patch of plywood on the floor, which would be their new home. It was like a human jigsaw puzzle, with interlocking knees, elbows, heads, and toes. Lit by a few naked electric bulbs, the space was dim and filled with a fog from cigarette smoke. The small room had only one bathroom. How could this one bathroom take care of so many people? Well, they soon learned that the women could use the bathroom, but the men had to urinate wherever they could and shit in plastic bags, which they threw overboard. In both of my books, I took the author's privilege of doing some fictional work by incorporating dialogue into it, so that it was storytelling. And my storytelling, which goes back into the late 80s, is still with me. Whenever I talk, whenever I give a speech, whenever I do anything, the storytelling skills are incorporated. The hold was hot. The roar of the engine was deafening, and the smell of excrement and sweat was horrific. That gives you an idea as to what they went through. And they were on board for a total of 17,000 miles, 120 days, until they finally reached America. So my storytelling is predominantly the kind that an author cannot look at and say, wait a minute, I didn't write those words, because I do a lot of adaptations of the stories that I incorporate. So most of them are multicultural tales, folk tales, and the Native American ones, which I dearly love to tell. With the background of storytelling and writing and creative activities and so forth, I've developed about 15 different workshops that I present, again, at schools, libraries, and sometimes organizations will ask me to do an hour-and-a-half workshop on a specific subject. I promote myself in that respect and let it be known that I do have these different workshops and classes that I teach. They can run anywhere from an hour to maybe a 3-session period program, depending upon what the needs are, what they want to do. So the creative writing is very, very popular. Storytelling is very popular. And lately I have been doing a lot for seniors to help them, as I say, get those brains moving again and dredge up, if you will, their memories so that they can share them with their families as part of their legacy.